Good, whatever the time of the day or night it happens to be while you're watching this. My name's Max Furno. I'm the media and graphic designer for Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Service. As always, we've got Pete Cole, our media resources technician, behind the camera working his magic.
Hello viewers.
And we'd like to welcome you to the podcast. This time we've come to Redhill Park Fire Station. We've got an extra special show coming up for you. It is a working fire station. There's lots of meetings and stuff going on, so you might hear a lot of noise and stuff in the background. You'll just have to bear with us. There may be a fire call, you know, if that happens. It hasn't happened yet, but if it does, you're just going to have to bear with us just for 30 seconds or so while we wait for the crews to depart and sort themselves out. This time we've got an interview with a firefighter who's based here on station. Janine is going to be showing us some of the equipment that we store on one of our brand new fire engines, and she's also going to be answering some of the questions that you've been emailing in to max.furno@dwfire.org.uk, so I'll make sure I put those questions to her later on as well. Pete, what else have we got going up in the show today?
So, as Max has said, we have this interview with Janine coming up, but before then we're going to look at some of our community engagement projects and some of the major incidents that we have attended over the last few months since our last podcast, and at the end we should hopefully have time for an email.
An email?
Yes, just the one today.
Time for one email?
Yes, but it's an epic. So.
Excellent. So all that leaves me to do is to say, Pete, run VT. Okay, so let's kick our look back at what we've been up to since the last podcast with a look at a charity we support and their annual VIP event held at our Community Safety Centre in Weymouth. Dignitaries and VIP guests from across Dorset and Wiltshire were given a tour of the facilities and the excellent work that staff and volunteers do for our local communities, like Firewise, Roadwise, Nightwise and Healthwise. The centre has a cafe open to the public, meeting rooms, an IT suite and even a dance studio, all available to book through the centre's reception desk, where one of the volunteers will be on hand to help you with your inquiry. In March, volunteers from DWFire took on the challenge of walking from Christchurch Fire Station to Poole Town Centre in order to raise money for the Firefighters Charity and the Motor Neuron Disease Association. During the half marathon, they called in at Springbourne, Redhill Park and Westbourne fire stations, taking donations and safe and well visit referrals along the way. Home Secretary Amber Rudd paid a visit to Swindon Fire Station in May, along with MP Robert Buckland. They were given a tour of the facilities by District Commander for Swindon North, Lee Braithwaite, and demonstrations by local firefighters and Salamander students. Being a firefighter is one of the most physically demanding jobs. Consequently, our firefighters have to be at the peak of physical fitness. As always, we had several entries into the London Marathon this year. From this year's special guest, Janine McCumiskey, Liam Blake from Swanage, Jason Nightingale from Devises Training Centre and Steve Taylor from Trowbridge, who all ran in full fire kit. Altogether, they managed to raise nearly £10,000 for charity. So very well done to everyone who took part. We've been based at our new headquarters in the Five Rivers Health and Wellbeing Centre in Salisbury, Wiltshire for over a year now, and the centre's refurbishment is now complete. Baroness Scott of Bybrook, OBE, leader of Wiltshire Council, unveiled a special plaque to mark the official opening of the new centre. As well as our HQ, swimming pool and gym, the centre also houses Wiltshire's Citizens Advice, a cafe and meeting rooms. In May, we hosted an LGBT and Me conference to raise awareness of International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia and Transphobia Day. It was also a chance for staff to learn more about Stonewall's Diversity Champions programme and explore issues with partner representatives from Hampshire Fire and Rescue, Wiltshire Council, Dorset County Council and Swindon Borough Council. Our second annual awards ceremony held at the Guildhall, Salisbury in May saw staff who had completed 20 years service presented with a medal by the High Sheriffs of Dorset and Wiltshire. Chairman of the Fire Authority, Councillor Rebecca Knox, and Chief Fire Officer Ben Ansell also took the opportunity to thank both staff and members of the public when it was deemed they had gone above and beyond by presenting them with certificates and commendations.
By thanking my staff and volunteers.
We held our first Professional Achievement Award at our HQ in Salisbury. Members of staff were presented with their certificates and awards by Chief Fire Officer Ben Ansell. Presentations were given to those members of staff that had achieved a qualification in a relevant field associated with their role to progress the service's priorities and values. So that's some of the community engagement projects we've been involved in. Now let's have a look at some of the incidents we've attended over the last few months. In March, firefighters attended a large fire on the roof of Guy's Marsh Prison, Shaftesbury. At the height of the fire, there were 21 fire engines and 2 aerial ladder platforms in use. All prisoners and staff were accounted for, and a total of 64 prisoners were evacuated from the affected area of the prison. The fire is believed to have been started deliberately, and following an initial investigation by police, a 29-year-old male prisoner has been arrested on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger life. Firefighters were called to a significant fire in a thatched property in Bishop's Cannings in April. At the height of the blaze, there were 11 fire engines at the scene. Also mobilised were the incident command vehicles from Devizes, an operational support unit from Swindon, and the emergency response volunteers from the British Red Cross based at Swindon Fire Station. A building control officer from Wiltshire Council attended at the scene to advise on the safety of the structure. During the fire, crews were able to salvage many of the occupiers' possessions, including a much-loved grandfather clock. We dealt with a technically difficult fire in April at a metal recycling centre, Swindon. The fire was spread over a large area, involving approximately 300 tonnes of mixed scrap metal, including cars and white goods. The intense fire was fanned by strong winds, which was causing a substantial smoke plume. This was a real concern for us in terms of the local community and road network. So, working with the police, the Highways and Environment Agencies, Public Health England, Swindon Borough Council and the company's on-site grabs and bulldozers, we were able to bring the fire under control. It was a busy night for our firefighters, as while we were tackling the metal recycling centre fire in Swindon, we were also called to a massive fire at Parnham House, Beaminster. At the height of the blaze, 20 fire engines were at scene, but despite the best efforts of all the crews involved, the house suffered a significant amount of damage. It is not believed anyone was inside the property at the time of the fire. In April, we responded to a calf that had fallen into a swimming pool in Plush. The property owner was able to hold the calf's head above water until arrival of a crew from Dorchester and Pool's technical rescue team. The animal was none the worse for its ordeal once it had been calmed by a vet with assistance from firefighters. So my guest today is Janine McConnesky. She's a firefighter based here at Redhill Park Fire Station. Janine, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and talk to us. So here we are in the cab of one of your brand new fire engines. Now, when there's an emergency going on and you're driving down the road at high speed, perhaps you could just sort of give me an idea about what's going on, what all the different firefighters are doing.
Yeah, okay. So the officer in charge, who would be sitting in your seat, he'll be looking at the MDT, which is a little computerised screen there. On that screen it comes through, we've got details on, so we have a map to show us exactly where the incident is. We also get text messages come through, so they'll basically tell us any new information for the particular type of incident, also what type of incident it is. The address will be on there as well. We can also speak to control on the radio. Control will also send messages through this and speak to us as well. I'll be obviously driving the appliance.
So your part of your job is to actually drive the fire engine?
My job is to drive the fire engine. I'll be obviously looking at my speed, making sure that I'm not going above the speed limit, because even though you're driving an emergency appliance, it doesn't mean you can go 100 miles an hour everywhere. We're only allowed to go 50% above the actual speed limit on whichever road we're driving on. So I'm going to be monitoring that. I'm looking at pedestrians, other road users, making sure that everyone's safe. We come up to a traffic light to make sure that no one's trying to cross the road if we come up to a red traffic light.
So you're sort of fully focused on
yeah.
your job.
Yeah,
your
right.
job is to get there as quickly as possible, as safely as
as
possible. So you in a way you're 100% focused on that and can ignore
what else is
everyone
kind
else
of going on,
and trust that they're doing what they should be doing.
Yeah, Brad, my officer in charge, will also be potentially shouting out directions to me, or he'll know where we're going in a particular way to get to it. Somebody else might have some local knowledge of the area that we're going to, a particular address if they've been to that property or area before. So for the crew at the back, depending on what incident we're going to, we'll have had our PPE on before we actually get going, because we'll have to have our seatbelts on before we start to drive. They'll just be thinking about what equipment they're going to need, depending on what type of incident we're going to. If it's a person's reported incident, then they'll be getting their breathing apparatus on. Sort of things like that, really.
And so they can actually be putting their masks and canisters on their back while,
they can actually
driving.
They can actually put their breathing apparatus on. They probably wouldn't go under air while we're going on our way to an incident.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get everything ready. That's only in certain cases. So if it's a person's reported, I have to bring my speed right back to 30 miles an hour in order for them to be able to do that. Then they've got to put their seatbelts back on, and then we can get going again. So, yeah.
Right. And what does it feel like being the only girl, in a group of sort of 5 or 6?
I think I feel like one of the lads, really. I don't feel that I'm any different. Obviously, physically I'm different. I just think that's probably one of the reasons why I joined this particular profession, is because I wanted to do a physical job, and I just feel like one of the guys, really.
So that wasn't a barrier to you when you were thinking about the fire service as a career?
No, not at all.
What was that?
It's a comms power reset, so if we aren't plugged in, which I need to do, then that'll keep going off. So.
Right, okay. All right, should we do that?
Yep.
So here we are on the move to the outside of the cab now. Now, people have been emailing in with some questions about the new fire engine that we're having a look at. And I've got a question here from first-time emailer Tom. Welcome to the show, Tom, by the way. Thank you for emailing in. And Tom would like to know what improvements are there compared to its Scania predecessors?
Okay, so the fire engine that we now have is obviously a newer version of the Scania. So we've got a slightly different setup of lockers. We've got slightly better equipment, like the lighting's better on this fire engine.
So lighting in terms of like it lighting up an incident?
Yes, as in lighting that could be taken away from the appliance, so it's new to this appliance and new to us as well. Things within the actual fire engine itself, so it's got a couple of new things that are new to us. So we have one's called an anti-collision device. So if a car is seen coming towards you, it'll automatically put your brakes on for you without you actually thinking that's going to happen. And also it's got a lane discipline, so it makes sure that you stay in the lane that you're supposed to be in. It gives you a warning if you kind of drift. Now these have come from the commercial industry, so people that drive commercially would probably be a lot more used to them than we are, so it's taken a bit of time to get used to those. But they're really the sort of the main kind of improvements and things that are different, really.
Brilliant. Perhaps we could open up one of the lockers and have a look at some of the equipment in there.
Okay, so
what have we got?
not really a lot of new equipment, really. So we've got a couple of spades, a spade and a shovel in that one. This is for goes with our turfer winch, which is just over there. They can be banged into the ground to make it nice and secure.
Okay.
Our chimney kit as well in there, the chimney rods, so you can put chimney fires out with those. Toolboxes. A lot of this equipment we've had on the older fire engines. Something that's quite new is the PPV fan.
So what's that?
It's basically positive pressure ventilation.
But basically you would use that to
ventilate, yeah. It's
vent a
basically
building that was smoke logged.
Yeah, smoke logged, yeah, potentially. And it's obviously under instruction of the officer in charge. But yeah, it's used for ventilation purposes.
Okay, cool. And what's that big beast beside it?
So this is what they call a light portable pump.
Oh, the light, that's a light
Yes.
portable pump.
And it's
Okay.
actually anything but light. This is actually something that's a bit different to what we've had before. So this pump works under the basis of a stirrup pump, which is basically you press this up and down, and that will give you your prime. So if we need to pump from open water, we would use this pump. It's just a way, if you can't get the fire engine somewhere, you can carry this and get this to that place, and you can pump
I
from
see. So
that
you
way.
would attach hoses
Yep,
here
hoses
that
come
would
from
run
there,
into a river or
and that
a
one
lake
would
or
run into the
something.
river. Yeah, that would be the one that you would pump from. Okay.
Okay, brilliant. Perhaps it's time for another question. Now, a friend of the show, Tony from Dorset, has emailed in. Tony asks, I'm interested to know how long it takes to become a fully trained and operational firefighter.
Right, okay. So everyone goes away to training centre. I personally did 16 weeks at training centre. I started up in London. So everyone goes away for a certain amount of time, and then you will come back to station, and then any specialist equipment that you have to be trained on, you would then do that at station, along with potentially doing an MVQ as well sometimes, depending on what training you've done actually at training centre, and that would just kind of run alongside when you come back to station.
Okay, and Tony also wants to know, is it true that firefighters must have 20/20 vision?
It's actually not true now. They've kind of relaxed that a little bit for sort of like newer recruits that we've had recently. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's 6/10 in one eye and 6/18 in your worst eye, and there are some other requirements as well, but you can find them online if you wanted to kind of look up, but you don't necessarily have to have 20/20 vision now.
Okay, great. Perhaps we should have a look at another locker.
So if we're looking in this one. So we've got our hose reel, which is kind of like your garden hose, but with a higher pressure. There we've got 45mm hose, 70mm hose, which is all kind of ready to go as and when we need it.
So how come like these hoses are so much thicker than that?
Because it's to do with the volumes of water. So if you wanted to put more water onto something, you would use the larger hose. If you wanted something that was going to be, wasn't going to escalate too much, it was going to be quick to use, then you would use the hose reel, which is a lot of the time we use this because it's quick and easy to get to work. But with that one, obviously, if you've got a fire that's going quite well and you're going to need heath fires potentially, you would use that hose just to sort of put it out a bit quicker and put more water onto it. It's to do with volume of water, really.
So let's just have another emailer. So first time emailer Carol from Hampshire has emailed in, and it's always good to steal a viewer from another county. We're not just for Dorset and Wiltshire. I mean, we could be worldwide, doesn't matter to us. We'll still answer your question. So anyway, first time emailer Carol has emailed in, and she wants to know, hi Max and Pete, love the podcast. How long does it take to train on each bit of specialist kit that the fire engines carry?
Okay, so if we were to get a new piece of equipment, everyone would have to carry out the training. It can be anything from a couple of hours to a week. It just depends on what the kit is that you're actually sort of training on, really. So and how kind of in depth they want us to train on that particular piece of equipment.
And she's got an additional question. Also, does every firefighter have the same training, or are there specialist units, for example?
So we're all trained the same. We all go away to training centre. Basically, when you come back from training centre, if you have a specialist sort of unit at your station, you will then go on to do the training for that. So, for example, at Westbourne Fire Station, they've got the aerial ladder platform, which if you were to train on that, that's an 8-day course, which an instructor would take you, and you'd then have to complete like a competency test to show that you're actually trained and know how to use that piece of equipment.
So we've moved round to the back of the fire engine, and from my point of view, this is what it's all about, really.
Yep.
So this, to me, looks like a huge pump.
It is. It's a big pump. Yeah. So this can pump up to 3,000 litres of water a minute. We actually carry 1,800 litres of water on the fire engine. So if we're using our 70mm hose, which was the big hose that I showed you around the side there, if we're pumping using that hose, we can actually get rid of the entire tank of water within about 1.5 minutes.
Wow.
If we're using the hose reel, which was the smaller hose, that actually that would last us for about 18 minutes, roughly 18 minutes. So that's just using one hose reel as well. But it doesn't take long to empty the tank at all. So we generally look for a hydrant somewhere so we can plug in and have another supply.
So I mean, so you've got a huge pump here, and presumably it behind those lockers that we've just been looking at is a big tank.
Yeah, the water tank runs down all the way down through the middle. Yep.
So you've got 3. To me, what I'm assuming you would...
We've got 4.
4?
Yeah, that one runs
Okay.
around the side.
Right, okay. So potential to have 4 hoses.
Yep, that's exactly right, yeah. So we could be using those all at the same time. As long as we're plugged into a hydrant, we'll have enough water supply to be using those.
Okay, I've got another question from Tom, who wants to know, what is the size of the hose reel? I ask this because new appliances over 2016-17 have had new, longer reels issued. I mean, Tom obviously knows what he's talking about more than me.
Okay, well, I'm not sure about whether they're longer. Our hose reels are 20 metres in length, and we have 3 lengths on either side. So we've got the capacity to have 60 metres of hose reel either side. If you were to put them together, obviously it'll be 120.
He also asks, has the appliance got the new high-tech computer screen at the rear, enabling to free that firefighter up compared to previous appliances?
Okay, so we do have the computer screen at the rear. We would always have somebody here looking at that screen, either looking at the screen or looking at the sight tube here to make sure that we're not running out of
So
water.
you've got a
sight
manual thing there that,
Yeah.
that
That's
clearly
kind of,
says...
that's a backup, yeah.
That's what
as
I'd
well.
be using.
Yeah, just in case the computer's not working.
So what have we got on here then?
So this basically tells you how much water you've got in. These buttons will give you 3-bar pressure, 7-bar pressure, or 20-bar pressure, which is what we work off for the hose reels. Shows you the high and the low pressure. You can put the revs up and down, or idle. Basically, that's it really. But you would never not have somebody around here. That would be your additional safety feature of having somebody here, making sure that, because if you've got somebody in a burning building, you wouldn't just kind of send them in and then not look after them. So that's our way of looking after them, is making sure you're kind of looking at their water supply. It's just general safety really. You don't want to look at the ladders or talk about the ladders though?
I suppose we should do while we're here, shouldn't we?
Yeah, so we've actually got 4 ladders on this appliance. I'll open this back up and show you the other one.
Okay.
We've got a triple extension ladder, which is kind of an easy to kind of just grab and use straight away, and that comes apart as well. We've got a 9-metre ladder, which is that one over there. We've got the 135, which is our biggest ladder, and then we've got a roof ladder. So if we needed to work off of a roof, you can kind of just hook that over the ridge, and you can work off of the side of it. The 135 ladder goes almost up to the 4th floor, so it's quite high.
Right. I mean, this looks like a pretty big bit of kit. You got to go. It's happened. We're gonna. Okay.
So that is life on an operational fire station. See, this might be one of our most exciting podcasts yet.
So it was going to happen eventually. Obviously, Red Hill had to respond to an emergency. Janine's managed to stay on with us though. So Janine, before you go, I've just got a couple of more questions. Friend of the show, Tony, has got another question. It's great to see that the fire service takes on apprentices. I didn't know that. Is it the case that after their apprenticeships they have the opportunity to become full-time firefighters?
Right, so yes, this is the second year that they're running the apprenticeship scheme now. The first one was really successful. They're really happy with the outcomes, so they've decided to do it again. We've actually got an apprentice on our watch here. So they have to complete 2 years of training. They have to do a BTEC and MVQ alongside that. They also had to attend college as well. And then at the end of the 2 years, they have to show that they're a competent firefighter, have to do kind of like a final exam. And yeah, basically they then hopefully have a job at the end of it. So yeah, it's a really good scheme.
Brilliant. Regular emailer Kingers99 asks, hi Max and Pete, love the podcast. Has prevention worked? Are there fewer calls due to fire?
So since I joined the fire service, that was probably about 13, 14 years ago now, we did a little bit of prevention work. You know, it was kind of starting to kind of come in. Obviously now we visit schools, we do a lot of home safeties, we go around to sort of different kind of care homes. So I think that prevention really has worked, and it's just kind of working with your local communities.
Kingers99 also asks, how has the role of the fire service changed in the recent past, and how has that affected the daily life of the regular potato-eating firefighter? So I think maybe Kingers99 has some preconceived conceptions of what a firefighter is.
Yeah, maybe. So I think just we're doing an awful lot more as kind of awareness, with regard to kind of, doing the home safeties, visiting the schools and things like that really, than kind of we used to a few years ago.
He also wants to know who makes the best cheese rolls.
We don't get time to eat cheese rolls.
So Janine, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. It's been really interesting. Thank you very much.
That's okay, no problem. So
the crew are back from their shout. Janine's had to rush off, but Callum, one of our apprentices, has kindly stepped up, and he's going to show us the rest of the equipment on the lockers. Callum, thank you so much for agreeing to do this for us at the last minute. So here we are on this side of the fire engine. Shall we have a look, see what's going on in here?
So within this locker, much the same as the other side, you've got your hose reel line, which is our most commonly used high pressure hose reel. So it's the same as on the other side pretty much. We've got our FB5X foam branch, so whenever we need to use foam capabilities, we would use the FB5X, which uses the Venturi effect to draw in the foam concentrate from the tubs on the other side to then create a foam that we can use for firefighting media.
So when would you use foam as opposed to just sort of standard water?
So when we got fuel fires and liquid fires on base like that,
okay.
when water will sink to the bottom when it actually put out the fire for us, okay?
And so where is this foam stored then?
It's in this locker on the other side.
Oh, okay. So it's just literally just like a tub.
Yeah. So literally all we do is we poke this straight into the tub there, or in through the opening there.
Right.
And then this connector connects onto the FB5X branch. And then once the water's flowing through the branch, it uses the Venturi effect, which draws up the foam concentrate and mixes it in with the air to create the foam that we need to fight fire with.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Rest of what we have in this locker, we have our controlled divide and breaching. So whenever we've got hose line and we need to connect it into two separate hoses, or if we're working on hose aloft and we need to have a point where we can release the pressure from, we use the controlled divide and breaching to make that separation in the hose line.
So this would take one hose,
Yep,
but would
so
allow
we'd
you
have a
to
link
attach.
of 70 connecting in here, and that would allow you to split into two separate hoses.
Okay.
We also have our branches in this locker. So we got the Delta Attack 500, which is our main branch that we use for compartmental and high-rise firefighting, which is the go-to sort of branch we use for whenever we need to use other hoses, such as the low pressure.
And this would be what
That's
sprays the
Attack
water,
750, yeah.
where you can
so
control.
this will connect into the end of a low pressure hose, and then this gives us the capabilities of going from a narrow jet to a wide spray, gives us different litres per minute pressures depending on how much water we need to put onto the fire.
So like a posh version of what I've got on my shower at home.
Yeah,
then.
very much so, a posh version of that really, an expensive version. What we've got here is a ground monitor, so at any point when we've got a situation where we're going to need to put water on something for a long period of time, or perhaps in a dangerous area that we don't want a firefighter stood there for a long period of time, in that danger zone, we've set into place a ground monitor, which we can have our low pressure hoses going into, and that will provide us water onto that point. And then the firefighter can leave that to do its job from that point, and the firefighter can carry out other tasks or go into a safer zone. If, say, we're cooling cylinders with it, we can set that into place, and then we can all get back out of the cordon. So if anything did go wrong, the firefighters aren't in the risk zone.
Brilliant. Okay. Shall we have a look at the next locker? So you're an apprentice.
Yeah.
How long have you been on your course for?
So I started back in the start of November, and I've been stationed here since December. So I did my initial training, and I've come here since then. And then obviously I've been back to Westmore's training centre to carry out other tasks like the breathing apparatus course and road traffic collisions course.
Okay, so you'll continue your training throughout,
Yep.
and then at the end of the course, how long is the course? Is the apprenticeship
It's a
for?
2-year apprenticeship. I've done all of my initial courses now. So I've done my RTC, my casualty care, my breathing apparatus courses, and my initial basic training on pumps and ladders. So now I'm more in the development stage through going through the 2 years on station, going to incidents and gaining that practical skills and knowledge and developing it. I have stage reviews every so many months. I have a test where I'll have to go through different elements of the job. So just recently I've done my pumps and ladders exam, where the crew get me to go through all my paces on different drills to check that I'm up to that competency level. At the end of my 2-year apprenticeship, I'll do what's called a final competency exam, which will then qualify me as a firefighter if I pass that exam. I also have a what's called a firefighter's development program to go through, a folder, which is where you work through all the different theoretical, more so, skill sets of a firefighter, making sure you know all the policies and procedures, and recording evidence of what you did on an incident. So when I get back from an incident, I'll write up a candidate report saying everything I did, and that shows in there that I have that practical knowledge and that I've actually done the role. So at the end of the 2 years, as long as I pass both of those, the practical and the theoretical element, become a competent firefighter.
Brilliant. So what have we got in here?
So inside this kit, starting from the bottom here, we've got our trauma kit, so our casualty care kit, which is our bag that we go to whenever we go to an RTC or a fire.
So an RTC.
Road traffic collision, sorry
Okay.
for using that.
Yeah.
So we get this kit out. This provides us with oxygen therapy capabilities. So if someone's had smoke inhalation, we can then give them oxygen from the cylinder to bring out their oxygen levels up. It also has things like tourniquets in there and Israeli bandages if we get catastrophic bleeds. So basically it's there for us to keep you going until the ambulance crew is going to get in there and assist with you, or if the ambulance service needs help with assisting with large incidents where they may be stretched to their limit. We also have a defibrillator inside the appliance here, which we carry on all first wear appliances. It's in case a member of the public or even firefighters may need it. All of our lighting and scene safety equipment here, so like when I was saying, when we go to a road traffic collision, we're going to need to make the scene safe, or even at a property fire, if we need to close the road, we may need to close the road off using cones and heights to show members of the public that we're there and they cannot go down there, because we are operating, making a safe zone for us to work in. Quite often on night times operations and things, we need lighting, so we've got our big tripod lights here, which are really good bits of kit. I'll just get one out to show you. So these are new to this new appliance, they haven't had them before.
Right.
This gives us the capabilities of going inside a property, which may be dark, all the electrics, we would have probably cut off all of the electric supply, and we then need to make a tripod light. So obviously, as you can see, could have been used as a small handheld torch, or it can be used to light up a scene within inside the property.
Excellent.
And it's pretty bright when you're in the right light for it.
We could do with some of those, Pete.
Okay.
I think so.
So yeah, it's another one of the new really good bits of kit that's come through on the new appliances. They've just been sort of upgrading and changing things as they come along. I think little things like the casualty care kit's now on this side of the appliance rather than the other side like it is on all the others, which is much better because when we go to a road traffic collision, we're most likely going to park in the fend-off position.
Of course, yeah.
So this allows us to be on the safe side of the appliance when we're getting the casualty care kit. So it's things like that that have been thought out with this new appliance, and things like the locker spacing and things, it's allowed for room for improvement in the future. So on a lot of other appliances, you'll notice when you look around, they're quite crammed lockers. There's lots of bits of kit in there that just makes it difficult to operate and get out of equipment, whereas this, we've got loads of room to operate. It's nice and clean, easy to keep clean, and it's got room for improvement. So in the future, when new bits of kit come out, there's room for it to be improved. And then while it's on the appliance, it stays charging all the time.
Oh, okay, so
whenever
that's
we need
actually
it. So,
charging.
yep.
Oh, okay, there's a little cable you're attaching in
So
there.
that gets plugged in there, and then that'll keep charging all the time, the same as the breathing apparatus sets and other bits of equipment on the appliance.
Brilliant. Okay, so what have we got in this one?
So this is our main RTC locker, so for our road traffic collisions. This has all of our stabilisation equipment, so our chocks equipment that we're going to use, so that when we get to a car, it's really important that we then stabilise the vehicle, so we're not going to get any other movement. Obviously, firefighters, paramedics, potential police officers need to get in and out of the vehicle to stabilise the casualty and treat the casualty. We don't want any more movement going through the vehicle, because obviously if someone's got potential spinal injuries, it's not good for them if they're going to be moving. So we stabilise the vehicle, prevent it from moving, prevent it from rolling anywhere, and that gives us a safe working platform. Obviously this is something that we've got to monitor the whole time, because when we start cutting doors off, taking the roof off, that weight, the suspension is going to be going up, so we've got to monitor this stabilisation all of the time. It's really important.
I see.
Other bits of kit in here, as you can see, we've got our high pressure hose lines in here, stored for works with our hydraulic equipment. So we carry on the appliance dedicated cutters, and then a combi tool, and then 2 hydraulic rams and extension pieces for the rams. We use holomatro equipment, which is really well designed to work with each other. So for example, this is just as the combi tool is designed just to open up enough a gap to get the small ram in, and then you can use the extensions to then get the big ram in. So it's all designed to work around each other to help each tool progress to the next level. So you can use them all to keep going with the extrication. So if you get a really difficult situation, which some instances can be, the tools will help you, and they're designed to give you extra capabilities than perhaps you would have thought.
Okay, I do have a question from new emailer Tom. Hi Max and Pete, love the podcast. What will be stored in the 2 small longer locker directly behind the cab?
Okay.
So I'm assuming he's talking about these.
So in the bottom section, we've got our CO2 fire extinguishers, which is a really handy position. On the old appliance, they're on the other side, in the where the LPP light portable pump is stored currently. So now they're in a nice, really easy to get to location for us to grab. And then in the upper locker, we have our home safety tripod ladder, which is what we use when we go to people's homes to fit smoke alarms and carry out checks there. We've got our tripod for when we setting up BA entry control, so the entry control board will slot onto that, and the entry control operative can stand there and see from the safe position and work from that position. And we have a powder extinguisher and a fire blanket, both like the CO2, nice and easy for us to grab for smaller incidents inside properties, kitchen fires and things like that. They're just perfect for in the right position. And on the other side, you've got your hand tools such as your hay drags and extension pieces for ceiling hooks and things. Okay.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Callum. I found that really interesting. Thank you for taking the time to show us around.
That's all right, no problem.
Right, so we've just got time to have a look at some of your emails. Pete, what have you selected out of the millions that we've received this time?
So this time we have, as always, we have quite a detailed email coming in from our friend of the show, Tony from Dorset.
Of course, yes, he's now an honorary friend of the show. What has honorary friend of the show, Tony, got to say for himself?
Absolutely. So, right, I'm going to read you what he's put to us now. So, Max and Pete, love the podcast. I've just managed to make up some time to watch the last podcast, and in my opinion, it's the best one yet. So you guys have set the bar particularly high. Excellent work and well done. So, I am, of course, delighted to be now termed friend of the show and laughed out loud when my christening was aired in that way. Well, you're very welcome, Tony. Excellent. So, Tony continues. The varied features of this month were terrific. I particularly enjoyed to see the pool crew showing the firefighters from Bangladesh how things are done here. That was a superb display of how your knowledge and expertise can be shared and used across the globe. I think it's a good example of how a service as large as Dorset and Wilts can be seen as leaders in your field. Well, we feel the same thing, and we invite people from all over the world to come and talk with our crews and our teams here, and we will share any knowledge with you that you'd like.
Absolutely.
So, Tony continues, the water rescue training was a fantastic feature, and I'm hugely impressed that you, Pete, managed to keep smiling whilst rapidly submerging and holding a camera. Well, I'm a man of many tasks, Tony, what can you say?
I did enjoy that, you did look good. It looked like good fun.
Excellent, so Tony continues, the interview was also interesting. I'm sure many viewers would like to hear from other firefighters who could perhaps relay their experiences of frontline service. Well, we've got many different ideas coming up for these future podcasts. So, so keep tuned in and keep subscribing, and you will hear more of them. I love the aerial shots of the thatch burn in Wiltshire. Is a drone something you guys will be able to use in the future for other reporting and recording? I would imagine for particularly fragile areas in terms of safety, the use of a drone would be very useful for assessment in response purposes. Well, Tony, a drone is something we are looking into actually. It's a rather exciting area of work that we're going with. I'm not going to reveal too much at this stage, but yes, there is a possibility that we will be working from the skies very shortly. So, as ever, I love the outtakes, so looking forward to the next bit. Keep up the good work, Men in Black.
You must mean us.
Yes.
And perhaps new viewers might want to go back and watch our March podcast to see what it is that Tony's talking about there. All right, that's all the time we've got for today. But before we go, I'd just like to thank a couple of people that have emailed in to the show. Jo from Dorset's emailed in to say how much she loves the podcast. So thank you for that, Jo. As has Dave from Dorset. Rod from Dorset's emailed in with another photo of Bob the Whisperer Harris, but unfortunately we've got no time to show you that this time. Lots of Dorset viewers, Pete. It'd be good to get some people from Wiltshire and other parts of the country emailing in.
Well, I have been getting various feedback as I've been touring the northern stations around our service now. So I urge all of you that are happy to talk to me face to face and take the mic whenever you like to email in, and we can level the playing field a little bit.
Definitely. So if you want to get in contact with me, and you can spell my surname, you can email me at max.furno@dwfire.org.uk. Pete, how can people get in contact with you?
As always, you can get hold of me at pete.cole@dwfire.org.uk.
We do read each and every email that you send us. We might not necessarily read them on the show, but we do enjoy receiving them. You can check us out in Apple Podcasts, through iTunes, or we're hosted by Podcast Garden, so you can search for us there. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel, just search for DWFire. The show is expertly produced by Pete Cole and presented by, and I use that word in its loosest possible form, by me, Max Furno. Thank you so much for watching, and I don't have a catchphrase because I'm a graphic designer, not a presenter. All that leaves me to do is to say, Pete, fade to black.
Adios.
Max out.